Hey guys, so these are some of my favorite inequalities. Something like x squared minus 4, or any polynomial where the exponent's greater than 1. If we look at something like a linear inequality and we simplify it, we get x is greater than 1. If we make a table for this, you'll see that you get falses and then it switches to trues. Anything less than negative 4 is going to continue being false. Anything greater than positive 4 is going to continue being true. This has a very clear line, and we can put a box around this. But for this one, x squared minus 4 is greater than 0. If we make the exact same table, we end up not getting that clear-cut line. It's true for a while, then it switches to false, then it goes back to true. This table just shows a couple values, but how would you actually calculate it and show all the possible values? If you're allowed to use a graphing utility like Desmos, you could just graph it, and we can just focus on a portion of this graph. This red line is x squared minus 4, so when is that greater than 0, or when is that above the x-axis? So we can see it's true for all of this up here, and it's true for all this right here. So we can see here from the graph that it's anywhere where x is less than negative 2, or where x is greater than positive 2. So this is the answer to the question. But if you don't have access to a graphing utility like Desmos, there's another way you can do this. And we're going to make a table. So we'll take this x squared minus 4 and factor it, and that's still greater than 0. And now we're going to find everywhere where this equals 0. So for the factor x plus 2, the 0 would be negative 2, and for x minus 2, the 0 would be positive 2. Now, since this says greater than and not equal, I'm going to make these dashed lines. That means that negative 2 and positive 2 are not part of the solution set. First, let's copy down this x minus 2 factored. So I can plug in really any number I want. Let's plug in negative 100. That gives us a negative number. So everything to the left of negative 2 is going to be negative. Now let's plug in some number between these. Let's plug in 0. 0 minus 2 is also negative. Now let's plug in something greater than 2. Let's plug in positive 100. 100 minus 2 ends up being positive. So we know everything to the right here is going to be positive. Then we can look at the other factor, the x plus 2, and let's plug in something very negative for that, like negative 100. Well, negative 100 plus 2 is just negative. Now let's plug in 0. That gives us a positive, and let's plug in something very large, which is still positive. So now let's go to our original, the x minus 2 times x plus 2. Since it's the product of these two, it's going to be the product of these. So a negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a positive is a negative, and a positive times a positive is a positive. So we can see that everything to the left of this will be positive, and everything to the right of this will be positive. So we can just say x is less than negative 2, or x is greater than positive 2. So this is how to solve it by hand if you didn't have access to something like Desmos. If you guys want to try any more of these polynomial inequalities, check out andymath.com. The link's right up there. How exciting.